All right, what's going on? So, this video, I want to talk about a structure, campaign structure, that's very much suited to everyone, specifically those that have lower budgets and also those with less experience. I think this structure is a very, very good way of really learning media buying and what to do and what to look for, and really being able to become impulsive with decision making, optimizations, etc., etc. But also with that budget where we're really going to run a micro budget. That's ultimately what the structure is called, a micro budget campaign, where we're running low budget campaigns, testing multiple ads, audiences, and obviously, as always, trimming losers and trying to scale winners. Okay, that's the same no matter what structure you have, but in the setup and how it's set up and the budget and whether you're bidding and you know how many ads and how many ad sets and is it broad or is it audience, that type of thing comes into the structure. Okay, so when I'm talking about structure, that's what I'm talking about, how I'm setting up the campaign. Okay, am I running low budget, am I running high budget, am I running a multiple target CPA as the daily budget, am I running lifetime, am I running manual bid, cost cap, cost per result, bid cap, target ROAS, right? That's all in line with the structure. So when I say, you know, this is the structure that we're looking at, you know, I'm referring to how I'm structuring the campaign, okay? So a little bit about this structure that we're going to talk about, this micro budget, is something that I've learned from a guy called Kurt Marley, Kurt Maley, I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name. You know, runs a ton of ads, more so in the info product space, I would say, coaching, consulting, you know, some lead gen, more high ticket stuff. In from what I've seen him do and talk about, you know, he's working with the likes of Frank Kern and guys like that, right? Like sort of gurus in the make money online, high ticket space. I'm sure he has clients elsewhere as well and runs ads for maybe e-com and whatever else. But that's what I see mainly, right? And he talks about this micro budget strategy in detail, and ultimately, what he does is he has a campaign, CBO campaign, okay, and so he runs a few different things. What we're going to look at is 122 in my video is 122. So one campaign, CBO, low budget, $20 a day. You can see I've already got that set here, okay. So one CBO campaign, $20, and then inside two ad sets, V1, V2. I'm running broad, 55 plus in this campaign, okay? And then in each of the ad sets, we have two ads, two different ads, right? So if I switch this to performance, so you can see V1 is video ad, 3030, and V1 also has an image ad, graphic 30, batch 3, graphic 30, okay? Now V2 ad set has a video ad, batch 1, 14, and also has an image ad, batch 8, graphic 2, okay? So I'm running 1, 2, 2. One campaign, two ad sets, two ads per ad set, right? So there's a few moving parts in this. Now, you could also, depending on how much budget you have, depending on how many moving parts you want to manage, I'm going to run this low budget because I want to show you how we can maybe turn $100. And this is the plan. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this is my plan, is where we can turn, you know, spend $100 and slowly work our way up to maybe $1,000 over the next week or so. And hopefully we'll be able to do that. But so again, depending on budget, you could do one campaign, one ad set, one ad. If you want more control over what you're testing, then that would be the way to go. If you're starting out and you're a brand new beginner, that would be where I would be headed. One campaign, one ad set, one ad, okay? And that way you can maybe, let's say you have $100 a day budget. You could test 5 ads with that $100 a day, because you would have 5 campaigns, okay, 5 CBO campaigns, all set at $20 per day, micro budget, and then you would have one ad set per campaign, all the same audience. Okay, so let's just say broad 55 plus. And then inside each ad set, you would have one ad. Okay, and those ads, those 5 ads, because you have 5 campaigns, would all be unique. Okay, so for me, I have a unique creative. Now, something I will show you as well is how you could maybe, you know, this is difficult because for me, I like to have, one thing being tested at a time. I don't like too many things being tested. But one thing I have started to do is test multiple headlines for the ad. So the way you can do this is, and I'll show you this, you can basically turn dynamic on for each of your ad sets and then just add 5 headlines to the one ad. So you had one creative, one primary text, 5 headlines for each ad, right? And the same headlines, right? So 5 of the same headlines for each different creative that you're testing. Again, going back to that 5 campaigns, 5 ad sets, 5 ads. So I really don't want to over confuse this, but I also want to make sure that, I tailor it to, or at least explain the options that you have, right? So for me, if I was starting out brand new, limited budget, I would go 1 campaign, 1 ad set, 1 ad, and do that 5 times. If I had $100 budget, right? $20 per day. Now, if I only had $50 budget per day, I would do the exact same, but at $10 per day, okay? Ideally, I've said this before, I don't really want to go below $20 per day, but on the flip side of that, I know some people, maybe only have $50 per day. So if that's what you've got to work with, then that's what you've got to work with, right? So yeah, that's where I'd go is 111 to start off with. And then as you start to find which ads are working, okay, and you maybe have more budget or maybe you've trimmed 3 losers, okay, so you've turned 3 of the campaigns off. Now you have $60 per day that you can sort of put into new campaigns, and you found that your other 2 ads that you haven't turned off, got a baby shouting at the door, but the other 2 ads that you haven't turned off are, you can now duplicate them into a new campaign and you can run something like a 112. So 1 campaign, 1 ad set, 2 ads, your 2 winning ads, right? And now with this, you can start testing audiences. So this is something that I've done as well. Now, again, I have been running broad for quite a long time and still tend to run majority broad, but I am starting to play around with audiences again. So interests and lookalikes, but getting a little bit more in depth with the targeting. So, I know a lot of people, you want broad audiences, and it's very true. If you want to scale, you want a broad audience, right? You want audience of, tens and tens of millions, ideally. But, if you've got an audience of 3 million people and you're spending $20 per day on that audience, you're probably going to be all right. For those of you who've ran like local ads, local lead gen, sometimes you're just running ads to like an audience of 100,000 people. And I remember when I was running my roofing ad agency, I had an ad running for the best part of 9 months without touching it, and it crushed. And the audience size was maybe 200,000 people, and we spent, between $50 to $100 a day on that one ad for like the best part of 9 months. It was crazy. So, even though it's a low audience, a smaller audience, you can still go in and absolutely crush with these micro budgets, which is why those smaller audiences are quite appealing, because those smaller audiences are also more dialed in. So, for instance, like this is a nerve pain campaign, right? Well, one of the things that we can start looking at is what are the brands of shoes that help with like orthopedic, right? So that like maybe someone with nerve pain would be looking to buy, right? And that could be, a big audience or a small audience, right? You've got Dr. Scholl's, I think they're called. I think there's Echo, I think is one. I can't remember all the names, but and they're not specific to like, oh yeah, only people who suffer from neuropathy use this. That's not the case, right? But that audience will have a good amount of people that potentially have liked and even bought the product because of their neuropathy, right? So we're just trying to look into audiences. Again, I'm sort of going off track here and going later down the line. Hopefully, there's some value in it. I'm just trying to explain the sort of structure of this campaign, and I'll have this written out in sort of more actionable steps on a document, so you can sort of read it as well. But yeah, ultimately, we want to test ads and find winning ads, and then we want to test audiences. That remains the same, right? This is part of what I've ran before in my other structures. Like, and I've said this before, like the concept remains the same. Like it doesn't matter, like if you're running, $20,000 a day in one campaign, or you're running $20 a day in one campaign. The concept remains the same. Like you need to test to find winners and eliminate losers, and then you scale the winners, and that is as simple as it is. The difficulty comes in finding the winners, right? The testing and like how much to test and like when to, turn off and decide, this is dead or we need to trim it, and when to decide, okay, this is enough data to confirm that it's a winner and we can scale, right? That's the difficulty. Okay. And then obviously there's other moving parts that come in with it, but we're not going to talk about the creative, the copy, etc. in this video. We're going to look at like the structure and actually building that out. So for me, I'm going to try and stick to $100 a day. Getting a frog in my throat. Let me take a sip of my peppermint tea. Okay. All right. So we've got this campaign. Again, I'm hot on naming conventions. ROAS is the name of the ad account agency that we use. These guys are great, by the way. If you need an intro, let me know. Use these guys for a few years, and then they were, again, sort of going off on a tangent, but they used the HTT Pool ad accounts. So anyone that's been around advertising agency accounts for a couple of years will remember that, because they got kicked off the Facebook partnership because obviously they were letting a little bit too aggressive or too much aggressive stuff come through. So they were no longer running with Facebook partnership. So HTT Pool disappeared, and obviously anyone that was solely reliant on HTT Pool for their ad accounts also got stuck in the mud for a time. ROAS used those primarily, and obviously had to then find other providers, which they have. Really good guys. I like the structure and how they're set out. I'm not going to go into too much detail. They have good accounts. They're very good to work with. Very easygoing guys, and very insightful as well. So highly recommend these guys, as well as obviously Natido for my agency accounts. Ad Revival still remains probably the bulk of what I do because obviously I spend high volume and want to have points. So I use my Amex cards for that. So definitely recommend Ad Revival as well if you are spending volume. I think Ad Revival, again, going off on a tangent here, talking about agency accounts, but I think Ad Revival are very much a very, what's the word? I think it becomes worth it for Ad Revival if you're spending over $20,000 a day minimum. Sorry, not a day, a month. But in fairness, saying that, I think Ad Revival are also probably cheaper than ROAS in saying that. ROAS, yeah, in fact they are. So there we go. So I think Ad Revival are probably, yeah, the best bet for sure. Anyway, let's get into it, right? So ROAS, I like the agency accounts because I find there's more stability and structure there. There's definitely a lot that more aggressive ads that you can push, whereas sometimes in other accounts it'll get rejected and there might be shutdowns come easier. Okay, let's try and get stuck into this. So, I've got my campaign name, ROAS Nerve Micro budget CBO, CBO standing for Advantage Campaign Budget Plus. Obviously, it doesn't stand for that, but it used to be called Campaign Budget Optimization, hence CBO. It basically just means you're running the budget at a campaign level. And then broad, because I'm testing the broad audience in this campaign, and today's date, 3rd of November. So let's just scroll through. So I'm on sales, always on sales, and always on manual sales campaign, never going with the Advantage Plus campaign or the Advantage Plus shopping campaign or whatever it is that they push. $20 per day. Here's my CBO or my campaign budget plus. And that's that. Bidding strategy is highest volume or value. And then again, if you're doing 1-1-1, obviously you just have one ad set here. If you're doing 1-2-2 like I'm doing, or 1-2-1, whatever it is, right? You can play around with this, and I highly advise you do. Now this is, again, it's funny, again, I'm going off on a tangent, but you know, for me, like, you know, looking at this 3S system or method or framework that we're trying to, you know, follow, where we spy, we spin, we scale, you know, it's the exact same for the structure, right? For, you know, like, I'm not recreating the wheel here. I'm seeing what other people are doing that know what they're doing. How are you running your ads? How are you setting up your ads? Like, what's the structure? You know, what type of budgets you playing with? Like, how many ads you testing at a time? Right? And then I'm just taking that and I'm just adapting it to what I think might work, right? So again, tangent Tom, but like, for instance, there was a structure called Sneak Attack. Some people might be familiar with it. Tim Bird. Like, that one campaign structure has been responsible for my biggest days. Millions of dollars made with that one structure, for me, right? And ultimately, it's a bidding strategy. You have a super high budget with a super low bid cap, and you set accelerated delivery active, right? So Facebook, you're telling Facebook, spend all of my budget. I want to spend all of my budget, and it's a $100,000 a day budget. Spend it all. But I don't want to bid more than $25 for a purchase, right? And so it's like, Facebook, you know, like, there's no way you're going to get placement in the auction for $25 for, you know, what the type of stuff we're doing. So Facebook wants to spend all your budget because you've said you can, because you're doing accelerated delivery, and like as quick as you can. But because you've got such a low bid, it's, you know, there's a real fine balance, right? You sort of have low CPA, and obviously with a high budget, right? But with that low bid, it worked great. I haven't really had it working too well recently, but yeah, I haven't really tried too much of it either. Anyway, I can't remember, but yeah, the upshot of that tangent was that campaign I took, and instead of running daily budgets, I did lifetime with day parting, and I did a few other things as well inside it. I did CBO instead of ABO, and had multiple ad sets inside that CBO, and that worked fucking great. Excuse the French. That worked really well, and by far was my best ever campaigns. Like absolutely killed it. So there we go. Anyway, if only that still worked to the way it did. But that's what I was saying at, right? The tangent was, like, I was taking what works, what I see other people working, I was testing it. Oh shit, this works. And then I was adapting it. Like, I was putting my own spin on it. Like, I was running lifetime and I was running day parting, only run the ads in this certain time block. I've talked about that before, right? And then I was running it in a CBO with multiple audiences and ad sets, and it absolutely crushed. Anyway, story for another day. So let's get into this, right? So I have my ad set. Let's go and have a look and see how this is set up. So, what change this, don't we? Because we don't want this to go live. I don't know what time it is, but it's probably around that time over in the Pacific time zone for the ad account. So I've got my time to start November 3rd, which is in a few hours. Can't edit ads together for some reason. So I'm targeting my 3 countries that I know work for Nerve. And 55 plus, because I know that's going to be actually what we do need to do here is we need to switch to original audience. So this is one thing I don't like about the Advantage Plus stuff is for this, I don't want to target 20-year-olds, right? I want to target people in the older demographic, like the people, that is very unlikely that I'm going to hit or find many people in the lower brackets or age brackets that have neuropathy, right? It's just like an older thing, right? Same with ED, same with prostate. Like the chances that I need to target lower than 40 plus are slim. Whereas with weight loss, it's a bit different because with weight loss, there are kids in the 20s that do want to lose weight, right? And I'm not saying there's no people in the 20s that suffer from neuropathy, and I'm not saying that there's no one in the 20s that suffer from ED or prostate health, but 99% of the market's going to be in the older demographic, right? So I want to control that and minimize any loss in spend outside of those age brackets that we know are going to work. So that's the way I've got it set up. Now, one thing I also want to do is I'm going to build some audiences out because I want to exclude. So I've started excluding my audiences. Now, I wasn't doing this for the longest time. For the last couple of years, I haven't excluded audiences, but now I'm starting to again. I am starting to see my frequency creep up. So we want to try and minimize that. And also, it just makes sense to exclude people that have already bought, right? So real quick, because this is a new ad account, we're actually going to jump in and build this out. So let's go over to the audiences and I'm going to create a custom audience. And by the way, audiences can be found on my side here. Okay, and if not, you just go to the main menu, all tools, which you can see there, and then you'll find them. And I want to create a custom audience and I'm going to base it off website. Next. Okay, maybe not next. All right, so now we've got this open. We want to set our source to our pixel or data set. And then the event, for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do purchase. And you could do website visitors. I recommend you start building audiences, by the way. So landing page, people who land on the lander, website visitors, you could, again, this is what I used to do, and I haven't really done it too much, but for those of you who remember some of the other stuff that I've done, and maybe it's on my YouTube channel, but I used to be a massive advocate of Google Tag Manager, and I haven't really used it because one of the reasons why I didn't have the pixel or data set on my landing page is because that was one of the ways that Spy Hero pull ads in. So one thing that we all started doing was not having pixels on the landing page because, that was a way of linking all your ads, right? If I'm running the same pixel across multiple ad accounts, then ultimately that was a way, if one of my ads gets tagged in Spy Hero, then there's like a little feature that says other ads using this pixel. And that's, I don't really want to be in the Spy tools too much. So that was a reason. But now it's like, man, I'm running a few private offers, so it doesn't really matter too much. And also I'm, there's no way of stopping it. We've seen that, but anyway, it is what it is. But I'm going to use purchases and, you could run this at 180. I usually do 30 because with the foresight of people buy, potentially one bottle, it's 30-day supply, might be back in the market in another 30 days, right? So I keep it at 30 days. So like for this, you can put Nerve purchasers or purchasers, and I'm going to put 30 for 30 days, right? And then create audience. So I would do this for checkouts, and then depending on how much volume you're running, you could also play around with the time frame, right? So, say we start spending $1,000 a day, and that's netting us like 10 purchases a day, then what you could do is say, all right, well, let's do 10. So now it's like Nerve purchases 10, right? Create audience. And then let's say, like we eventually scale to $5,000 a day. And again, we're still paying that $100 CPA. So then that'd be 50 purchases coming in every single day, right? So then what you could do is you could do purchase based off the last 3 days, right? So then Nerve purchase. And the reason why I'm doing this, and again, what you might also be doing is you might be running this across multiple ad accounts, right? Using the same pixel, like I just mentioned. So then you might also have like combined, you might have a bunch of different, or ad accounts running. So you building up your audience pretty quick. And the reason why I want to do this is I want to build lookalikes off this when we get enough data. Obviously, for the 3 days and 10 days, that's not going to come anytime soon. 30 days, I probably would be able to. Actually, I might even be able to start building off these right away because I've got ad accounts and campaigns running to Nerve offers at the moment using this pixel. So I might be able to use that. But the reason why I like to sort of narrow it down is there's a big difference to someone that's just bought today or yesterday compared to 4 weeks ago, right? Like the person today or yesterday is super in market, right? Their intent is super high. So building a lookalike and targeting a 1% lookalike of people who have bought in the last 3 days, that's a super high quality audience. Now, one thing I'll say about lookalikes is they're gonna go away, right? I don't know, like I'm sure I've seen a message in the ad account or the audience saying that they're going away. I know Google have done it, Facebook haven't yet. Let's see if that happens or not. I know Facebook are really pushing for people to sort of just run broad. And when that happens, obviously we'll adapt to that. Yeah, and we were already adapted to it. But for now, while we've still got the use of this, we may as well still use it. And I am seeing good results come from it, by the way. So then what I could do is like, that's my purchases. So let's do checkouts as well, right? So a website, and we could do the exact same structure, 30, 10, free. So now instead of all website visitors or purchases, we do checkouts, and let's do 30 again, and then let's call it Nerve checkouts, 30. And let me grab that so I don't have to type it out again. And I'm not going to build all of these out because it's just going to be a bit monotonous. But ultimately, I'm just going to do this last one, and then I'll come back in myself and do the rest outside of the video. So there, what I do is I do another one for 3 days. And then what I do is I would do, you could, if you wanted to, do some landing page visitors. What I was getting at before with the tag manager is with tag manager, if you've got a relationship with the vendor, which I highly recommend you do when you start getting sales, you sort of reach out to the vendor and just like build a connection with them. That's like number one, right? The relationships are everything. That's what's going to present other opportunities in the future, early access, exclusive access, potential JVs, right? But with, so what I was going to say. Yeah, with Tag Manager. So if you had a relationship with them, you could put the Tag Manager, or you could ask for Tag Manager to be placed on their on the VSL with your pixel or data set. You could even have a private domain for your affiliate link. If they're a little bit like, well, that's unfair on other affiliates. If you're going to get all their data, which is great. But if they are a little bit finicky about that, then you could just say, well, can I have it on my own exclusive domain? And then place my tag manager. Because what you can do with tag manager is, there's a few things. But one of the things you can do is you can set an event to fire based off of time spent on page. So bearing in mind, most of our VSLs that we push are 45 minutes to an hour long, right? So if you fire an event 30 minutes into, 30 minutes on the page, it's probably someone who's watching the VSL, right? With high intent. They've stayed on the page for 30 minutes. Yeah, obviously there's going to be some people that opened it up and then forgot about it and it stayed open on the computer or on the phone or whatever. But they're going to be in the minority, right? Most of the people in that audience will be watching that video, okay? And there's also things you can do with Tag Manager that actually link up with Vimeo or YouTube and I guess other video providers that actually do it based off of the video, right? So like someone playing the video, you can fire an event off through that. I know you could do that with YouTube and Vimeo. I don't know if you can do it with like Vidalytics and some of the other video hosting platforms that the VSL guys use now, the vendors use. But I know you can with YouTube and Vimeo. All right. So, that'd be one thing that I'd be looking at. How else can I build audiences, create custom conversions, etc., and really maximize potential retargeting, but also being able to track certain aspects inside your ad account and also being able to build lookalikes off of that as well, right? It's just feeding more data. It's really, really high level and definitely deserves a video of its own to sort of go through that, which I will do. But, for now, let's just stick with, the standard events that we're getting and also what we do. So I do that, right? And I could play around with upsell. Now, with the upsell, what that's going to help with, if we build off lookalikes based off the upsell, is it's going to help with AOV, right? So like, if we target people like a 1% lookalike of the upsell visitors or upsell purchases, people who've took an upsell, that means our AOV is going to be higher, right? Like we're finding people, we're targeting people who have bought a higher amount of goods in the funnel, right? So naturally, that's going to help us, find more people who are willing to spend more money, okay? All right, so that's all the good stuff there. So one thing that I also like to do, custom audience, is I like to do my videos, right? So, we run high volume to videos, probably takes up 90% of our creative. I know we're doing this, we've got 2 images and two videos, but I do like to build up my videos, right? So most of the videos that we're running are probably around 1 minute, maybe 90 seconds long. So if I build an audience based off 50% views on a 2-minute video or a 90-second video, that's 45 seconds watched, right? It's pretty good. So then we select the videos. I'm not going to do this because I don't want to be giving my page away because someone thinks it's okay to rip my ad. So I'm not going to show you my page, which is unfortunate. Let's see if we can... basically, you'd have this dummy page and it'd show all your videos here that you've published. You'd have to do this after your ads have been added, by the way. And you just select which videos you want to build the audience off of. So every video ad that you have, and then if you publish new video ads in the future, you'd come back into your base audience, your seed audience, and edit it, and then just select the new videos as well. So then those people watching the new videos will also be added to that seed audience, and then also be implemented in that lookalike audience. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to give my page away. But yeah, so that's what I do. I build out a ton of audiences. 1 for tracking, to help track inside the ad account, and for 2 to be able to build lookalikes off, and 3 if we wanted to retarget, right? Someone who's checked out in the last 3 days, makes sense that we maybe run like a retargeting ad to those people. Again, it's not something that I've had too much success with retargeting, but it's something that I always go back to just see if I can sort of change that, right? Because it's powerful, right? You've already got the data. They've already checked out. You've already paid for that checkout, right? So like trying to get them back, for some reason there's intent there, right? They just didn't press the button. They didn't follow through with it. So like it makes sense to sort of just have like a $1 a day image ad, right? Just like, yo, you forgot this, right? Or whatever, just hitting different angles, different pain points that someone who is product aware would be. And that's another video for another day. When we talk about our messaging in the ad funnel, is like market awareness funnel, right? Where you have unaware, problem aware, solution aware, blah blah blah, right? And so like our ads and our messaging and our angles and concepts need to be based around that. And that's another video for another day, right? I think it's Eugene Schwartz who has that market awareness funnel. Anyway, let's go back to the ads manager. This is getting a little bit long, this video, so we'll see how we go. Now, I'm not going to show you the ads, as in open them up. Again, I don't want to show my ad. It's a real shame, to be fair, because if we didn't have a rat in the group who wasn't deciding to just go and rip my ads, I would be very transparent and open. And you know, when this campaign is going full flow and scaling, I probably will. But what will happen here is I'm going to launch this in a new ad account. Someone's going to go to the page and basically rip my ad and run it for themselves. And then my ads aren't going to be as effective. So then this case study will no longer be around, right? So it's a real shame because I'd like to be fully transparent and fully open and show you everything. But there's some people who are just going to take the lazy way and rip someone's ad, and then obviously ruin it for everyone. So it is what it is. I'm not going to be able to stop it, so it's just unfortunate. But the value will still be here because we're like, you know, you're just gonna have to run your own ads, right? Like there's, and again, like my training with the market awareness, I'm going to show you how you can just leverage AI to basically write copy. You know, the creative aspect. You can see these video ads are literally text presentation, black screen with like writing on them, right? The only visual aspect of it is the first 5 to 10 seconds. And I've talked about this before. Like, you know, and even my creative guy, that video is exactly that. Find something, you know, like a viral hook or something related, whether you film it yourself, like for nerve pain, film your own feet, like, you know, a teaspoon of powder being applied to your toes, to your feet, whatever it is, or a foot bath. 5 to 10 seconds of that, then text presentation. That's all it is. So simple. Like literally could be done in like, you know, 5 minutes. Everyone's got an iPhone or a smartphone with a camera. There you go. Everyone's got some kind of powdered substance. I imagine everyone has or has the means to get like a basin, like a, you know, like a washing up basin where you can put your feet in. Everyone's got water, you know, like, do you know what I mean? Like, just it's so easy, and everyone's, or not everyone, but a lot of people are just so lazy on this aspect of it. So it just makes me laugh because it's simple to create creative. It really is. Like you could literally whip up 10 or 20 different video ads in an hour, right? Based off like, you know, adding a few different things to it, you know, to your feet, to a foot bath. Look at these images, right? Like you can find thermal images on Google, right? You can find pictures of people with their feet in foot basins, and then you can apply text in Canva. Like that literally can be done in 5 minutes. It's not hard. It really isn't. So to be ripping people's ads, it's just very lazy. It really is. Anyway, again, I know I've touched on that multiple times. So we've got this, right? So this is our setup. So what I'm going to do now, because what I want to do is I want to test audiences here. And I'm going to start by testing interests. So I'm going to duplicate this campaign. And by the way, you could do this where you just like switching out the ad. Again, especially if you're doing one-on-one, you can switch out the ad. For me, I'm going to keep these 4 ads. And I'm going to go into the ad sets. And I'm going to hope it's going to let me, yes, I think it is. Yeah, we can edit here. So what I'm going to do is, and by the way, so I've just dragged this over because I wanted to show you this. This is like in ChatGPT. This is me getting ideas for targeting interests, right? So basically I shared the URL of my my what's it called, my lander, and then or one of my landers, and then I've gone through and obviously, you know, it's told me okay, blah blah blah, and then you know, give me a core health concerned audience. So now US, Canada, UK, other regions of high interest, age demographic or age brackets, and then, you know, interest, alternative medicine, natural remedies, chronic pain management, neuropathy awareness, diabetic health, pain relief, right? Behaviors, engage shoppers, frequent online health resource visitors, discover, right? So, and then here, diabetes and chronic condition audience. diabetes, blah, 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 wellness, holistic, right? So like we're getting an idea of what we can do here, like what we've got working, wellness, alternative health, right? Same sort of things, holistic medicines, high value purchases, online shoppers, engaged shoppers, retargeting, right? So what you can do here, and again, I think I asked it to sort of be a bit more, or physical products, right? So compression socks, foot massages, hand massages, EMS sort of stimulation stuff, heating pads, cold therapy packs, ergonomic cushions, orthopedic shoes, this TENS, transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation, anti-fatigue, topical pain relief, weighted blankets, right? So we get a good idea. Infrared, nerve relief creams, blah, 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 right? Foot spas, hydro foot baths. So like by doing this, like these interests aren't all targetable on Facebook. In fact, many of them are not. I'm just going to move this off screen. Let me just bring that over there so we don't see it. Okay, so with this, that they're not really, like you can't target diabetes really, right? You can't target neuropathy. Like there's no interest for that, right? We can try and search like neuropathy. Nothing. Okay. All right. Let's try neuro. I think there's neuroscience. Yeah, neuroscience as field of study, neurosurgeon, neurology. There is an interest of neuroscience here with 100+ million people in. But neuroscience could be anything, right? Like that, anything to do with the brain. So it's not really something that's completely applicable to neuropathy. There might be, and there will be people in there, right, in that audience. So what we can do is we can select it, and what we should see, I mean, usually the suggestions on this ad account, it's you just click here and you can see relevance. So cognitive science, mind, psychology, emotional intelligence, memory. See, it's all brain related, but it's not related to neuropathy. Personal development, neurology, learning, self-awareness, motivation, self-esteem, quality of life, self-knowledge, coaching, education, neurology, right? Like you can see, like this is more to do with like sort of the emotional state, psychology, psychiatry, emotion, neuro, right? So like that doesn't really do it for me. There's nothing really there that I think would be worthwhile. In us targeting, right? So then it's like, okay, what else did we see? Let's have a look and see. So what I did, and obviously I'm not. Let's go in here, right? I'll just open it up here. But what we can do is say, let's say orthopedic shoe brands, right? What brands of shoe? And you could ask ChatGPT, by the way, this. In fact, we will in a minute if I don't see anything. So Birkenstock, New Balance, Asics, Dr. Comfort, big. I imagine these are going to have like New Balance is huge because it's not just this is what I was saying before, right? Shoe brands. I don't know if there's any shoe brands that are specific to neuropathy. There probably is, but it's going to be so tiny, it's not going to make sense, right? But thinking of like like what would someone who like so if I'm suffering from neuropathy right now, again this is going into a now audience and like understanding audience, but like if I'm suffering from neuropathy and the main pain for me is in my feet, burning, tingling, and I can't walk without pain being there, right? More than a few steps, then like I'm gonna go to Google and I'm gonna be like, right, okay, what shoes are best for neuropathy in the feet, right? But obviously, that's going to make sense anyway. All right, so straight away we can see. All right, so who's running ads? Cozy Feet. Now I've never heard of him, but like obviously I haven't really been looking either. No, Norelli looks like it might be a UK company. Hoka, right? Best shoes for neuropathy. Ortho Feet, Springfield, Men's Hoka, Arch Support. Now New Balance, okay? Ergonomic soles, Men's New Balance, Skechers, okay? Then Forbes have got an article. Let's see what Forbes are saying. What shoes do people with neuropathy wear? Best shoes for neuropathy. Brooks Ghost, I've never heard of them. New Balance, Skechers, All right, so I'm starting to see there's a couple there that we'd probably be able to find on Facebook. I think New Balance, there's Echo, mentioned them before. So we've got Skechers and New Balance and potentially Echo if we can find them. Let's have a look and see what this Forbes article says. See if we find anything. So we saw this actually. Brooks Ghost, New Balance. All right, so we don't need to see that. Again, I don't want to spend like hours and hours on this, but we have a couple of ideas. So let's put New Balance in. There we go. New Balance footwear, New Balance. So like footwear, obviously, 54 million. That's took our audience size down to 5.8. Now, like I said before, New Balance is used for runners, like gym shoes. I don't think really like, designer trainers, but, active, right? Sports shoes, right? Sports trainers, sneakers, whatever you want to call them. So like the majority of this audience, maybe not going to be our target demographic really. However, because we've got this age bracket in place, how many 55 plus are buying New Balance to go and lift weights or are buying New Balance to jog or run? Obviously there's going to be some walking as well, but there's also going to be an element that are maybe doing exactly what we just did there, right? Where we went to, where we went to Google. Now, is that key? Is that search what they're going to be searching for? I don't know. But if I had painful feet and I couldn't walk without being in pain, I would want some shoes that would sort of help, right? So that's what I'm trying to get at, right? Now, what else did we see? We saw New Balance, Skechers was one as well, right? Skechers. So now we've got 8.7 to 10 million. So, we're doing all right. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to build like what's called an audience cluster. I'm going to put a few related interests together. And that's what I'm going to do. Now, the other one was Echo, right? Echo footwear. And I'm also looking down here. Is there anything now popping up? Asics was one that I saw. Is it Birkenstocks? Because ultimately we can let Facebook do the lifting for us and give us relevant suggestions, right? I don't see anything else. I just want to search for that. The people that were running ads. Cozy Feet was one. Nah, never gonna find that, are we? It's gonna be too small. Okay, I'm just looking on the other side of the screen there to where these. What else I had? Skechers, New Balance. All right, I don't think there's really anything else that we'll be able to find. Dr. Comfort, I don't think we'll find that. Ergonomic, I don't think we're going to find anything there either. Nope. All right, but we've got free interest. It's taking us to around 10 million. It's good for me. Okay, so up here, I'm not going to change anything else. I'm going to go to find and replace because I'm changing the name now. So Broad is going to be footwear brands. Okay, I'm going to take that. And you could add more, by the way. This is obviously done in, a few minutes. You could, do a little bit more research, find other brands that are maybe more targetable. But boom, there we go. There's our next campaign with the interest, right? So then I'm going to duplicate again. I'm building 5 of these, right? And then I'm starting to think, okay, let's go back to ChatGPT and let's see what else they suggested, right? So health concerned. So is there anything here that we can really think of? Now, one thing that I've noticed with Facebook, and most people will have noticed, is they have definitely reduced a lot of the interest. They've removed a lot of interest, especially those that sort of cater to health. I remember a few years ago you could target pain relief. There was a lot more diabetes related interest to target. Now you have to get a little bit clever, right? So we'll look at some diabetes stuff in a sec. Oh, not been able to duplicate. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, I don't know what I'm going to name it, so I'm going to go down into the asset level and edit, and we're going to go down here. We need to add our exclusion as well. We're going to remove the footwear brands, and then let's type in diabetes, because there is one, yeah, this drive to stop. And then let's see, well, boom, look at that. First suggestion, sugar substitute. Makes sense, right? So let's have a look. So that gives us 6 million. Cholesterol, I don't know if that's really going to be relevant. Might be. I don't know. Splenda might be, right? Splenda's like what's it called? The fake sugar, a sweetener, right? Splenda. So Splenda might be that. It's basically a sugar substitute, right? Or it is in the UK. I don't know if it's Truvia as well, right? These are small audiences. I would have thought they would have been big, to be fair. Coke Zero, Diet Coke, heat. That's interesting because we saw that before, right? Heat and cold therapy. It's whacking the drive to stop diabetes as well. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. I can't really see anything else. And I'm going to take sugar substitute. I know I'm going to leave drive to stop diabetes in there, but it's not really changed the audience size too much. And then we're going to go and replace footwear brands. Oh, with sugar substitute. Okay, and then we're going to do the exact same here. No, I don't really need to do that. I can just change it here. Remove copy and then replace footwear brands with sugar substitute. Save and then duplicate. Okay, let's remove that. It's annoying me. Let's go into the ad set level again. Let's remove all of these. And let's have a look at ChatGPT. What else did we get suggested? It was compression socks, right? So I know there's compression garments because I've run it as weight loss before. So there's compression garment. And it's sort of like, this is, yeah, look at that. So it's quite a small audience anyway, though. 924 to 1 million. So half of the audience size is in this 55 plus demographic, which is interesting because when you look, corset, bodysuit, shaper, how many 55 plus people are wearing bodysuits, right? Undergarment, maybe. But this is more catered towards the, what's it called? Slimming wear, right? Because what I want is compression socks. So let's go and see on our Google brands of compression socks, just in case we find anything. And I don't think we will, but who knows? Comrade, Charm King. Wow, we ain't going to find anything like this, are we? Bauer Fine. That's an Arab Emirates company because I'm obviously in the UAE. Have a quick look at health.com. Lev Socks, Charm King, Blue Maple. Now, I don't think we're going to see any of these, but we can try. So let's try, was it Lev Socks? I don't know if that's how you spelt it. No, we're not going to find them. Okay, but we've got this, right? So compression garment, so find undergarment. Shaper, power tools. Let's have a look what we find if we type in socks. Heated clothing. That's an interesting one. Heated clothing. Hmm. What we're going to look at, let's have a look at socks. Because what we could do, it might shrink the audience a little bit too much, though. Because what another thing you can do is you can sort of narrow, right? So there's socks, and you can define further or narrow. This ad account has got slightly updated stuff, and then you could say define by also compression, right? And this might really shrink it up. Yeah, look at that, 300,000. It's not really where we want to be. Let's have a look if we were to look at footwear as well. Still quite small, right? Jeez. Hmm. See that? I mean, that audience is ideally I want to be over 1 million, but I mean, we've ran, like I said before, a couple 100,000 people. The issue is like scaling into this size of audience. It's not gonna be, at some point we're gonna hit a ceiling pretty quick. But let's try it. I'm interested to see if it works. So then I'm gonna find and replace. Sugar substitute. Ideally, we want to be over 1 million and usually a little bit higher than that as well, right? But whilst we're getting data, we've got a brand new ad account, etc. Kind of makes sense that maybe we go a little bit more dialed in. So this was, what was this? Stocks plus compression, right? I think. I think I put footwear in as well, but I'm just going to keep it at that. Boom. All right, and then one more to round out $100 a day. And for this one, I want something quite broad. Let's get a big audience in here as well. So let's go down and remove this, remove this. So let's go with like, I don't think we can get alternative medicine anymore. This used to be an interest that you could, I thought that was it then, it's not. So there used to be an interest that you could do. The fields of study ain't going to cut it. Let's see what happens when we, so health and wellness, that was what I was actually going for, health and wellness. Oh, what was that one actually? I just saw something quickly. Field of study. I saw Oriental medicine caught my eye. Okay, health and wellness. But what we're going to do is we're going to refine it again or define it. And we're going to have engaged shoppers. So we've got a 27.8 mil audience. So let's like define with engage. It brings it down to 16.8. It's a great audience size, by the way. All right, so let's try that. So it's still quite broad. Well, how have you done that? Because I don't want advanced. This is the thing with Facebook. They just like freaking decide to select different shit. Excuse me. So detailed targeting. Why? How have they? Where? I don't even know how to turn that off. Advanced targeting. Will expand your audience to include more. It's automatic based on your campaign objective and conversion goals. What? I'm just flicking through a few things to see because that's a new. I don't know if this is because of this ad account that I'm using and it's new. Ultimately, I don't really want expanded targeting. Really makes sense why they'd not give me an option to turn it off, but I can't see one. Let's have a look and see if this is something new that's been added. All right, so I can't find a way to turn it off. I don't have control, so I've just messaged the guys at ROAS to see if that's something that can be turned off at the account level. But yeah, not seen this before. Oh, I've seen the advanced detail targeting, but there's usually a checkbox to unselect it. So anyway, we'll carry on as is. So what we're going to do is now we need to find the other one. And that's not the other one. So V2, it's got to be this one. Yes, so I was looking for both of them in the same campaign. So let's first just make sure that they are the right ones. Okay, health and wellness engaged shoppers, lovely. So find and replace, and then socks plus compression is health and wellness plus engaged shoppers. And I want to grab that to save typing it out again. And then at campaign level, boom. All right. So there is our 5 campaigns, $20 a day. Okay, one broad, footwear, sugar substitute, socks and compression, health and wellness. So let me explain what I'm doing here, because again, going back to our, ads and all of that stuff where I like to test different concepts, this ultimately is different audiences, right? We have broad, then we have footwear brands. Then we have sugar substitute, and that's sort of trying to get into like that diabetes audience. Then we have socks and compression. Then we have health and wellness, and these are narrowed audiences, right? With engaged shoppers and socks with compression. So the idea here is to find audiences. So not only are we testing our ads, we've got 2 videos, 2 images. We're also testing the interest, right? Now, for the lookalikes, we're going to let them build. And ideally, we'll implement them later down the line. But the idea here is to see what sticks with what audience. I'm losing my voice. So I'm going to wrap this up. So hopefully there's been value in this video. The synopsis is, this is great for low budgets, okay? Perfect for low budgets because we're still testing a decent amount, right? We're testing ads, and we're also testing our audiences. Now, I would recommend if you are brand new to advertising, brand new to Facebook ads, brand new to affiliate, my recommendation would be to do 5 campaigns, 5 ad sets, 5 ads. Okay, so 1, 1, 1. I wouldn't stray away from that. Now with the ads, they're the same primary text, the same headline. You could, if you wanted to turn on dynamic. I'm not going to for this campaign or for this account. just going to keep it with one headline, one primary text, and just the only differentiator be the creative in between the ads. And then obviously ad set level or campaign level is testing different audiences as well. So $20 a day combined is going to be $100 a day. We're going to let it run. So what I'll usually do, and again, I'll do a video when I start doing this, is I'll usually let this run for 2 days just to see what happens. So like I'm not running, based off of target CPA, which again is what I used to do, or what, I still do it in some accounts. But in this specific structure, I'm just allowing 2 days, maybe 3 days, depending on secondary metrics, and then deciding, okay, no purchases, I'm just cutting it. The good thing about micro budgets or small budgets is Facebook seems to work harder in order to get conversions for the smaller budget. I've been talking too long because I'm starting to cough. All right. So I'm going to publish it, launch it, see what happens. Hopefully we get some good results that we can sort of start building upon and go from there. But yeah, I mean, if your budget was like, oh, well, I've got $500 a day, well, then just test more audiences or test more ads. You could have a combination of 1-1-1s where you're running one campaign, one ad set, one ad, and that whole thesis is you testing ads. And then you could have a portion of the budget going to what we've just done where you're testing audiences. And you could have a portion that's going maybe to, 1-1-2. So you're testing 2 ads in a campaign. Then you could be, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to find winning ads, winning audiences, because then we can start playing around with it. If you already have data, you can start running lookalikes. If you wanted to, test 5 lookalikes. Just do what you want to sort of align with your budget. Right? There is no right or wrong here. We're not, going in and being like, oh, well, shit, I've got $1,000 today, but, Thomas is only doing 5 campaigns. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just like, I'm trying to make this relevant to people with a smaller budget. Okay. Because I know if I'm going, oh, well, here's my 50 campaigns that I'm launching, that can be overwhelming for someone who has only $100 a day to spend. That's why I want to start here, and I sort of want to, potentially turn this into a case study if we can, before someone rips all my ads and crashes the campaign. But we'll see, right? We'll see. The upshot is we want to test this, and then we want to, in 2 days' time, trim losers, and scale winners, and then also potentially if nothing's winning, replace stuff, right? Okay, so these ads aren't working. And the great thing is, because we're going to be just running like 2 days, so $40 each campaign, 5 campaigns, that's $200. If nothing works, $200. It's not that bad. $200 isn't that bad, right? Obviously it's better than having 2 campaigns, each spending $1,000 a day, and both of them crash, and now you're $2,000 down the drain, right? This way we can spread the net wider because we can test more things, we can run in more campaigns, and we're minimizing the loss, right? Again, I don't like saying loss because ultimately it's still data, and data is valuable, right? If all $2,000 is spent on, mobile newsfeed or audience network or wherever, then obviously that confirms maybe we need to cut that away. And that's actually an interesting point because what we can do is I forgot to exclude my custom list, custom audience of purchases, which we're going to do hopefully now if it lets me edit everything at once. All right, so yep, we can add exclusions, and we are going to exclude purchases. I'll leave checkouts in because one of these ads might just turn into like a retargeting one, and that's fine. And everything else seems to be okay. There was something else I wanted to do. What else was I going to do? So the exclusion. Can't think what I was going to do. That's going to crush me, man, because that was something important. Ooh. Oh, placements. There we go. Okay, so placements. And I can't edit placements together because it's stupid. So let's go into individuals. Because what you can do, if you wanted to, manual placements. Facebook is going to tell you all of this, right? And, you know, I do like Facebook having some control because the algorithm's powerful. They have, you know, billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of dollars worth of data points. But also, I want control. And like audience network, yeah, we might spend a little bit and get a few sales, but there's no point in running. So I'm going to remove them. Audience network and messenger. And I'm just going to, you know, I think we'll just leave it at that. I'm just going to remove them. What you could do is you could just run feeds and reels and in stream. And ultimately, that might be the best way of doing it. So let's try it. I'm going to remove everything now that I don't think is applicable. I haven't really got too much data on Explore, so we'll leave Explore. Facebook Business Explorer, I just can't see that. Yeah, Instagram Explorer might be good. Video feeds, everything else stay the same. Stories and Reels, I'm going to keep. In-stream videos, I like. I am going to remove the ads. Search results, I don't see the point of that. All right, so I've just cleaned that up, right? We're going to run unlimited placements, but they're the placements that we run and get results on, right? That's where most of our volume goes. So again, maybe like 15% of budget goes to these placements that I've just removed, and maybe it's way less than that. I don't know the exact number, but with limited results, right? So it's like, well, let's put that 15% into the places that we know convert and where volume goes. And so that's what we're doing, okay? All right. Now I've got to do that on everyone, which is an absolute pain in the backside. So what I'll do, I don't think there's any real point of you having to watch me do this. I'll end the video here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply that to everything, to all the ad sets, and I'm going to publish a campaign. In a couple of days, we'll check back. It's been a super long video. Hopefully there's value to it. I will break this video up as well, but for now, I'm just going to get it up on the school platform. So you're going to have to just make do with the hour and 12-minute video. But I will break it up into more bite-sized pieces to make it a bit more digestible. All right, guys.